Hi, I'm Wayne Miles with the City of Raleigh Stormwater Program, here to talk about an exciting project that we partnered with Raleigh Arts to produce an immersive educational floodplain installation called Alluvial Decoder. This is an exciting project that we selected an art design team. Now, I'd like to acknowledge a gang of three who were the creative designers on this project. Lincoln Hancock, William Dodge, and Will Belcher developed and implemented all of the creative concepts of this display. So I'd like to give a big shout out to the art design team on this project. First, let me review and just give a high-level overview of Raleigh Stormwater's mission, which is to manage stormwater to preserve and protect life, support healthy natural resources, and complement sustainable growth for the community. And it really does take a big group of people, from council to management to stormwater staff. We have a Stormwater Management Advisory Commission that's a permanent stakeholders group that gives us lots of input from the community to work together to make this happen. Our vision is to be the smartest stormwater program possible to economically and equitably achieve our mission. In short, to be stormwater smart. And we apply this stormwater smart philosophy to everything we do to support our overall mission. In this presentation, we'll be focused on the two key elements. One is outreach and engagement element of our program, as well as obviously our floodplain management and public safety aspects of our program as well. The objective of this project was to install a creative display that would educate the public on floodplains, their function, and their importance. And goals are really, we wanted to inspire and begin conversations in the community about floodplains, about their benefits and the risks of urban flooding. And we wanted to use communications channels, approaches that would reach new audiences in the community, folks that we don't normally reach with our normal messaging. And at the same time, we were inspired by some other artistic displays. We had used in the middle there with in Raleigh, a green stormwater infrastructure project included an art installation that was a representation of filtration to show the improvement of water quality that was being caused by the GSI device. And then we'd seen some other inspiring art too. Boulder, Colorado had a flood level marker display, and Lakewood, Colorado had some water-related features that were inspired in front of one of their buildings. So we got thinking, why not use this avenue to help reach more people about floodplain-related issues? So we decided to proceed, and then we wanted to select the site for the installation. And we selected a Crabtree Valley area for a couple of reasons. Crabtree Valley is one of the more well-known local flood-prone areas. Going back to the 70s, you can see the photograph, which has been somewhat iconic, become somewhat iconic related to flooding in Raleigh, near a mall, shortly after the mall had opened up in the early 70s. And the other benefit of Crabtree Valley is its Greenway Trail is very well used, one of the most heavily used, if not the most heavily used Greenway Trail in Raleigh, and over 125,000 visitors, pedestrian and cyclists. So a good place to locate a display that would get a lot of visibility in the community. So we put together a request for qualifications. Raleigh Stormwater teamed up with Raleigh Arts to put this together. And we have a wonderful arts group that is very well tied into the arts community. So they were fantastic to work with, and were able to get this request for qualifications prepared and put it out in front of the, and get lots of responses from the creative design community throughout, not only locally Raleigh, but there was some national submittals as well. And a quick review of the RFP included our goals and objectives: educate residents about floodplain, We wanted the artwork to be flood-proof for obvious reasons, as it was going to be subjected most likely to flooding. And we talked about having a virtual online component as an option, but also not only examine flooding, but ecological positives and historical narratives by residents about flooding. And we knew where we wanted to focus it. We gave the artistic creative designers the basic location we wanted to go, and encouraged them to visit that location if they could. We used the two-step process. The first step was proposals from artists, and we got quite a few excellent submittals showing a variety of types of artwork, as I said, from some nationally renowned artists. And then after that first submittal process, we shortlisted to a handful of artists, and we did give a $250 stipend to the shortlisted designers to then come give us a presentation on their specific concepts for our installation. And this was during COVID, and this was completely done virtually, the entire selection process, including the interviews. After that process, we selected a gang of 3, and they presented during their interview a very well thought out concept that was essentially fully developed. And it included some elements that you'll see more of into this presentation, but the 2 key elements were, one, a mural with maritime stylized letters showing the names of some of the hurricanes and large storms that caused flooding throughout this area, as well as some color-coded flood poles that represented the elevations of different flooding events, and the colors were tied to the specific events. And we had good history of data from our USGS partners as to the flood elevations, as there is a USGS flood elevation gauge just downstream of this site. So we had a pretty good history of flood information. The artists presented a turnkey delivery that included their concept, as well as they hired the team that did the installation of the entire display, including setting the poles. They designed they had a structural engineer design the poles to withstand flooding forces that were expected in the area, and they hired the muralist to paint the mural. And the total cost of the entire installation was approximately $50,000. And here's some pictures of the final installation. As I said, the stylized letters represented some of the storms, and some of these take a little time to look at, but once you get the hang of the lettering, you can see some of the names. The bottom right there is Danny. The one just above that is Matthew and Kyle and Alberto and Hannah are obvious here in the display. You'll also see, though, some black and white check names or representation of storms, and those are unnamed storms. And that was a key part of the message as well, that it doesn't have to be a named hurricane or a named tropical storm to create flooding that could be dangerous and could be significant in this area. A very nice metal plaque was created as part of the display that shows the timeline, and we had some early anecdotal data from flooding back in the 70s, but the USGS gauging station was not installed until the mid-90s, and so we had much better information and elevation stage data for those storms. And you can see this also provides an index for the color coding of the poles to show when those flooding events occurred, as well as the sizes of those storms and the amount of rainfall that fell. And here's some of the poles with the final installation. Each storm has multiple poles associated with it. and they're usually installed in groups, so you can get a good feel as you are traveling down the Greenway Trail of the different storm events, their flood elevations, and even it's not shown in these photos, but there are some poles actually on the other side of the creek that you can see through the trees, again, to give you a better perspective as you're passing through the Greenway Trail in this area of the magnitude of the flood events. There's also some signage. The sign shown here on the right is actually adjacent to the mural and is at the end of the Greenway Trail where the bridge is. That's one end of the overall display. And then at the other end of the display is the sign on the left, providing the name of the installation, the artist names, and some similar text related to the messaging for floodplains, their benefits, and so that travelers coming from the other direction of the display get an early sense of what they're about to enter. And even since the installation was put in, going on about 1.5 years ago now, we've had a few significant flooding events, and the display has held up well. The poles have held up very well, and the mural's gotten a little bit weathered, which is important and good and part of the message as well. We expected this. We haven't gotten a flood event significant enough yet to put up another pole, but I'm sure that will help and happen eventually, and we'll have to think about how we want to do that. It's not fully developed in concept, but that's part of what we plan to do as well. We had an opening event that we had a very good turnout. Some of that turnout was planned. We had council members come, lots of community groups come, and some of the folks that came through the opening event were just on the Greenway Trail, and they're cyclists and pedestrians, and stopped and asked a lot of questions, which is exactly the intent of this display. We hope people will stop, look at the mural. I love the word that the artist came up with, the alluvial decoder, incorporates the concept of this is related to flooding, but there's some decoding to be done, to look at the mural, look at the names, figure out what the poles represent. And so really helps increase awareness, get the community conversations going. As part of the opening event, we also spread wildflower seeds as part of creating a more native riparian buffer. And so since the photo was taken on the left, and we've worked with our Parks Department to stop mowing around that Greenway Trail, and we have a much more significant riparian buffer full of wildflowers that has started growing in that area as well. And the artists were on hand. Really appreciate not only the time and effort the artist team put into creating this and installing it, but they've made themselves very available. Go back and take pictures. They provided the photo of the installation while it was flooding, and so really have helped us continue the conversation in the community. And as I said, this is in a very high traffic area, so we continue to get questions about it and inquiries, and lots of very positive feedback. During the grand opening, we prepared these takeaway cards that help with the illustrations of the color coding of the flood poles. We described the event and the decoder itself, as well as some of the wildflower seeds that were included in the plantings and that occurred part of the grand opening event as well. And this was a surprise to me. Maybe it wasn't to the artists, but this project won a Raleigh Medal of Arts Award, which is a very big deal in Raleigh. We have a very active and vibrant arts community in Raleigh. This is a big event every year, the Raleigh Medal of Arts event. And in fact, the Medal of Arts Award is usually given to individuals. This was the very first project that was selected for a Medal of Arts award. So really opened up the eyes of the community, and did exactly what we were trying to do by reaching some different networks within the community to talk about flooding and talk about urban flooding and the risks. So this was a very nice surprise, and I think a great recognition for the art team that came up with this very interesting concept. And they talked about placemaking and as part of this, and it's very much achieved that goal as well. And the display has gotten the attention of local media. In fact, this past fall, during hurricane season, we had a fairly sizable storm. Hurricane Ian was bearing down on North Carolina, and the local news media reached out to do an interview about preparations and awareness of flooding. And this display acted as the backdrop for their news story as well. So the news media can certainly reach a much broader audience than we can. So we appreciate all the support that they've given, and we got a lot of good feedback from folks that saw this story on the local news as well. And again, continue to open up the conversation just as we had hoped about urban flooding. So overall, very excited about this project. Objectives and goals met and exceeded as far as we're concerned. Lots of awareness raised on flood risks. More community conversations are being had around flooding issues. We keep getting questions about the display. Increased media coverage. Not only did the local news channel do a story on it, but a couple of the local newspapers did stories on it as well. And it's really did create a place to have these continued conversations so that we can engage the community, help them understand the risks. And we've continued to work on other art displays too. We have one that's going to be going in near Walnut Creek, down by our wetland center that the city owns and operates, to improve messaging related to water quality. And so this was our first big project like this, but it will not be the last, because ultimately, our vision is to be the smartest stormwater program possible to economically and equitably achieve our mission and be stormwater smart. But it takes a community to really spread this messaging, spread the word, and implement a good stormwater program. So these are many of the staff that we have on our team, and they all make it happen every day. Thank you for your time and attention. And I'm Wayne Miles. I'll be available. There's my email address for any follow-up questions that anyone would like to have. Please drop me an email and continue the conversation. Thank you very much.